1 year ago, we were blessed with two tiny, medically fragile human beings who were so small they could each fit into the palm of a hand. Today, they are healthy, happy, mobile, and seemingly committed to finding increasingly creative ways to launch themselves off furniture. We thought that already having a child meant we knew exactly what to do with twins and that it would be easy. It was not. Twins are a whole different sport. So for their first birthday, I thought we'd do something a little different. Not just celebrate how far they've come, but talk about what actually got us through the first year with twins, the shifts that we've had to make, and the gear that got us through. I'll also show you the one item I swore I wouldn't need, but now I can't imagine life without. If you're panicking because you're expecting twins, you have newborn twins, or you're just simply nosy and enjoy watching other people's chaos, hello, then this is the video for you. From NICU to 1, what got us through the first year. For those of you who are new here, hi, my name's Jessica, and together with my beautiful wife Claudia, I have 3 children. 5-year-old Rupert and now 1-year-old twins Augusta and Theodora. If you want to know more about how we made our babies as a 2-mum family, then you can click the card right up here to watch those videos. We went through quite a process to make a sibling for Rupert. It took longer than expected and we were beyond shocked when we found out it wasn't just one baby in there. Obviously multiples come with risks, and we know that from experience as we went from 3 babies down to 2, and then those 2 were diagnosed with acute late onset twin transfusion syndrome. Essentially, the placenta gets very confused and blood from one baby is shunted to the other. Not great for either of them, as you can imagine. Having too much blood isn't good, as your heart then has to overwork, and having not enough blood is not good, as sort of a key thing humans need, right? Amazingly, we were able to have corrective laser surgery whilst the girls were still in utero. It's probably one of the scariest moments of my life, and I keep saying I should find some time to have therapy about this. The operating room is full of doctors, the anaesthetists, a team who worked on prenatal surgery, then an obstetrics team to step in and do the cesarean if they needed, because if any of this started to look like it was going wrong, they were going to yank those babies out. A paediatrics team for each of the 2 babies who were potentially about to be born at 28 weeks, and then just me trying to pretend like this is really normal and fine, but knowing that if it starts to go downhill, we're just immediately into emergency territory and they're going to hustle me out of that room. The girls held on for another 5 weeks after that, and they were born rather dramatically at 33 weeks after choosing to break their waters in the middle of the night. Whilst Augusta was the twin that we worried about the most during pregnancy because she had reduced blood flow to her brain and she spent weeks constricted with not enough space to move, you wouldn't know it. The second she came out, she was yelling and wriggling, and a year later, yes, she is still the smaller one, but she is also the baby who learned to scale her way onto the dining table and who will leap off the highest part of the play cushions just to see what happens. She's this cheeky little adventurer who's always smiling, always chuckling, and always doing something she knows she probably shouldn't, just to see what will happen. Theodora, on the other hand, is so introspective and thoughtful. She loves to read books, do little puzzles, sit on your lap and play with a bead maze. She is 100% sure that she can talk fully and fluently, and she speaks in complete sentences. Our fault that we don't understand her yet. Although she was the bigger baby from the start and is still slightly larger than her sister, though they are exactly the same height, which is fascinating. She's probably the one who's a little bit more delicate, and she needed more help. And a year ago we had these incredibly small goals: gain weight, take the feeding tube out, make it through appointments, not have to go back under that UV light again, get enough sleep to remember our own names. Now we're dealing with evolving our style of parenting for 2 girls who are completely different to each other and their big brother, who we never had to baby-proof the house for, by the way, because we would just tell him not to do something, and this little baby would go, and never touch it again. But these 2, it's going to be so fun when they learn to walk, which will probably be tomorrow. So let me tell you about the most important thing you need to get through your first year with twins. The most vital thing you need is to pivot from idealism to reality, and be okay with that.
When Rupert was a baby, we used a wake windows chart.
Yeah, I used to organise it and then print it out and we put it on the fridge.
Yeah.
Every week it
updated
changed.
it every week, like week 9, week 8. I don't know why I counted backwards. I also saved, like, I wrote down everything about his waking times and like how much he'd like drank and how long he'd fed for, like at night time, and tried to like work out how I could improve it the next night.
I also kept a chart of all of his abilities. So on my phone there is still a note that goes month by month with every single thing Rupert learnt to do.
More than me, like, but Jessica followed like the thing and said, oh, this week he should be doing this kind of pincer thing.
With twins, the vibe is kind of more like, are we all alive? Excellent. Proceed.
Yes.
I think there's definitely something about how as second-time parents we do have more confidence.
And basically you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and then you think you need to come up with some, well, we were like, and I am very much like, we need to come up with this magic formula that works. And then I think you realise that there isn't a magic formula and it's just a temporary time, and even though it's exhausting, it's more exhausting like worrying about it and Googling it. You are sometimes a bit harsh on yourself, like occasionally you're like, oh no, I haven't like prepared this, like their play spaces. And I'm like, you know, it's like, it's fine. Like they have things on their shelves that are correct for them right now.
I think being twins.
It is all, oh yeah, with twins, they either both want to look at it at the same time, or like one of them is pulling something else off the shelf, so that you can't really put things back. So we're just a bit more free flow.
Yeah, and I think we also have better boundaries with ourselves. Like we don't put ourselves through so much stress, or don't get ourselves quite so exhausted.
We're really inspired by, when we read all the Montessori books before we had Rupert, was the idea of a floor bed and not having your child contained and freedom to move. But with the girls, we decided we want them to share a bedroom. If you get one of them sleeping and then the other one wakes, are they gonna like roll over and crawl to the other one, wake them up if they're on a floor bed?
Absolutely, yes.
Are they gonna like, if it's just me doing bedtime, like in the middle of the night, I'm the one that does like the nighttime because Jessica is on her medication, so I'm like, so like if I go into the room to like, if Rupert had woken up and crawled to the door, that was fine. I could get up, open his bedroom door and like, you know, assist him back to his floor bed. But if there's two of them at the door, one, I'm not going to be able to potentially open the door because they'd be like barricading it shut, and like it would just be like a constant like relay of like baby bed. So yeah, we just put them in cots. We were so like, no, cots are like prisons for babies. Now we're like, yay, prisons for babies. We reduced the height as soon as they were like pulling themselves up to stand, like all the things that are recommended to avoid like risks of them climbing over, because that's something that we were worried about with Rupert.
I think the kind of reality of 12 months of 2 is that safety and also our own physical energy had to come first. So it wasn't ideal, but it was the best decision for our sanity.
When they are moving around more confidently, we can make them into like little beds where they can just get in and out easily. And
we will probably find them every morning in the same bed.
Yeah, maybe. It's not just about, oh, because now I have the knowledge, now I'm less worried, like my anxieties are a bit like, you know, less, you know, all of these things. But those things are driven by, one, yes, the fact that you've had a bit more experience and knowledge, but the second big influencing factor is the fact that you're looking after another child that does heavily influence how you then parent your second child or your third.
We actually, you know, shared the things, the products that have worked for us and helped us, and is that I think is really important. The best piece of advice is just to cut the guilt. Like having 2 babies did make us feel a lot less guilty about things that might have felt with one, like, oh, we just need to try harder.
You know, when people say, oh, double the work, double the reward, is very much true, because like it is hard work, but when you have, you know, managed to take both of them solo to a play group and then managed to get them both down for a nap completely in sync and prepared them their lunch and given it to them on their plates and tidied up the table and like put the bottles in the bottle washer and a load of laundry on, and then your babies are still like happily playing, and then your other like partner, and then your partner comes back from work, you're like,
I'm a super parent.
I'm so good at this. Yeah, it feels pretty amazing.
It does.
Yeah, but because most people don't have twins, I'm like, I'm incredible. I'm ahead of everyone else.
And with the guilt, there also comes being okay with using machines. Bottle washer, it's okay. Formula prep machines, do it.
Yeah, I mean, both of the things that we would recommend are the baby Brezza, bottle washer, sterilizer, like all in one thingy, and the baby Brezza instant formula thing. Those two things, like best ones. Some people might disagree with, but we just buy distilled water.
Yes.
And put it in straight into the baby
machine.
Brezza, because we cannot be doing with boiling lots of water and waiting for it to cool down.
Oh no.
So we just bought distilled water and use that, because then it can be just served at room temperature, it's instant, and we trust that it's like safe of germs and everything. So,
and we live in England, so we drink the tap water, so it balances out.
I mean, now the girls are one, they can have tap water as well, but we still use distilled water for their bottles for some reason. I don't know why. Like, we're just like, woohoo! We're just like, we could probably just use tap water now. You might say like, oh, things like baby Brezza, like machines are expensive, and then you worry about like the waste of it afterwards, but you can, like, you know, resell them, you can give them to a friend or a family member who's expecting a baby, and I'm like, I think the time it saves you is invaluable, because they're not babies for long, and you want to just be spending quality time together and not be just like hunched over the sink. Put it on your baby gift list registry as like, buy me this Brezza machine, it will change my life.
Twin feeding pillows. How many hours did I waste looking up a variety of twin specific feeding pillows and whether we would need them? Too many. I'm not getting that time back. And I'm here to tell you today, you don't need it. You do not need to buy the twin specific feeding pillow. It's so expensive. We tried one in the hospital and it's like weirdly hard. We already had one breastfeeding pillow rounded thing, because obviously we'd had a first baby and we kept it being like, this second baby's gonna come any day now. 4 years later. So we just got a second pillow. They're boppy pillows. You also don't have to buy a boppy one. The boppy ones are more expensive. I will say, you do get what you pay for. It is good. It's the level of firmness, the amount of stuffing, but you could just buy one that is a bit cheaper and flatter and then pad it underneath. So we had these two pillows, and the joy of having two of them rather than the connected twin one is that it fits in a variety of places. It means you can really work your arms, you're not killing your back, so you're leaning over to specifically get to this place where these twin feeding pillows are. Instead, put your shoulders back. Rotate your arm, feed this way. So much better for your shoulder blade. This is for bottle feeding, obviously. I didn't breastfeed my babies. I also didn't carry them. I carry them around. Let me tell you, they are heavy. So you're feeding them this way around with your arm backwards. It seems weird, trust me. I have a double scoliosis. I know a lot about back pain and shoulder pain. And it is much better to have two disconnected cushions that you can really rotate around. And also, it means that each individual baby now has become a toddler and has a toddler lounging cushion wherever they wish to put it, preferably far away from each other so they don't climb on top of each other, because that is all that they do. And if you want to resell those cushions, there are a lot more people who just have the one baby. You know how when you're a first-time parent, you think that you know everything, but also you also think that you know nothing, but you sometimes think that you know everything. I will never use that. What did we think that about? White noise machines. We tried it once with Rupert, and he looked at us like we were trying to murder him by playing death metal.
I was using a white noise machine, we've like ditched that now.
He hates it.
Put him down in his crib, and then and he'd be like turning his head towards it and like crawling up his crib trying to find out where this noise was coming from. And then one time I picked him up and he just stared at me like this cold, long stare. Also I had him like resting on my knees. We were just staring at each other. It was like the longest staring competition I've ever done in my life. I was saying to him like, why aren't you going to sleep with my eyes? And he was saying, because you won't turn that stupid white noise machine off. And I was like, no. So then I turned it off, and then he was like, thank you. I went straight to sleep. So ever since then, I've like not used it.
We had babies who had spent weeks inside a hospital where it's so noisy, even in the middle of the night. They slept so soundly next to very loud machines, but they were so used to being hooked up to things and hearing them rumbling along every night that they couldn't then sleep. So we had to use the white noise machine. And now I realise that the white noise machine is a blessing. And now I recommend the white noise machine. I mean, I don't know whether it's a baby product anymore or just a beloved member of our household. There's one recommendation I always make to any of my friends, family, anyone who asks me anything about parenting, I'm having a baby. It's a mat. Ooh, fancy. It's that you need a playmat. You've got to have a space on the floor for the baby, and then you've got to put the baby down on the floor, put them on the mat. From as soon as you are able to do so. I mean, we couldn't really put them on the floor to begin with because they were in hospital, but as soon as they came home, we worked on ways to get them down onto the floor. They were in docker tots to start with because that was like a good way to keep them protected. But I think it really is a lifesaver for you as a parent later on to have your child learn to play independently. And I know every child is different. Don't worry, I am not saying this works for every single child, and I'm not saying it works for every single parent and every single family. No. But it is just the thing that I think is incredibly helpful. They can do a little bit of tummy time, or they can lie on their back, they can look at the mobile that's above them. Having a mirror close by, which aids in their development, it really helps their concentration. Our girls have just turned 12 months, but that's not their adjusted age. So that developmentally, they are still 10 and a half months, developmentally, but they don't get themselves confused in the mirror. They have identical faces, but when they look in the mirror, they know which of them is which. I think that's largely because they have always had a playmat right next to a mirror. A variety of toys nearby, but not too many, to have them out in a way that your child can easily get them down themselves. We go for a mix of Montessori toys and, I can never say this right, heuristic toys. This word currently on screen, heuristic. So Montessori materials are closed-ended, they have a point. Each thing is teaching you a skill, whether that be just drop the ball in, it comes out. Drop it in again, it comes out. Wonderful. Whereas heuristic toys are much more about an open-ended style of play. There's a lot of different little things and you can do with them as you please, whether it's, let's see if we can stack them, let's see if we can put them in a row. The little woodwind bits are very cute, you can do that if you want, but you can also just get a bucket or a basket and put kitchen things in. Just let them sit there and enjoy. And you can put other things on the playmat. Like we have a picture triangle, which Augusta can climb all the way up to the top of, put one leg over, and then go, I don't know where to go. I guess I'll dive off. You can also add some lovely soft play blocks, whatever it is that's really helping your child to move around. So I'm really into Montessori mobiles, and the girls worked through the whole series. They're really, you can make them yourself. Like I made all of Rupert's mobiles, and for the girls, we reused some of his, and then what did I do? Wow. I was so sleep deprived, I can't even remember. I have this really clear memory of the very first time that Augusta reached out and tapped the mobile. And it was the first time that either of the girls had really reacted to their environment. It must have been maybe coming up to 3 months old. She reached out and tapped it, and I think I cried because it was the first time that I was like, wow, you're there, you're in there. You're coming out to the surface, like you're trying to make contact. Because with a premature baby, you have these weeks and weeks and weeks of really newborn life where they are a very sweet, very lovely little potato, and they're not giving you that glimpse of their personality that you get sometimes within the first few weeks with a baby who's born at term. And so I'm a big proponent of the mobiles, and it gives you at least 5 minutes to have a drink of tea or coffee and not feel bad, because you know what, you're really aiding their development right now. So actually, it's necessary, this coffee break. It is vital. All right, let's talk about the longevity choice. One thing I have learned is that twin gear can be expensive because you're buying everything in double. Some people will say, oh, you don't need double the things. You can just use the same thing for your twins. Well, no, you can't, because how are you going to use one car seat with both of them? You're just going to put one of them in the high chair and then the other one just sits there at the bottom and cries. I want stuff that grows with them. And that's why we have leaned so heavily into the Stocky Trip Trap. These are not baby items that you get rid of in 6 months or at their first birthday. They grow with them. Rupert used his from the very start, and then he used it. He used it as a baby, he used it as a toddler, he used it as a preschooler, he used it as a 5-year-old. I can sit on his Stocky Trip Trap chair when we're having guest rounds, we don't have enough chairs. And now we have the girls' ones, so 2 more of them. Also, the baby attachment bits have a really good resale value. So again, it's one of those things that you can adapt and then pass on the adaptions as you don't need them anymore. They have this wonderful ability for the children to be able to have the independence of getting up into their chair by themselves and getting back down. However, if you do have a climber, like we do, you can also get another accessory, which is a little harness. It's so lovely to see them in the same chairs that we used so heavily for bottle feeding at the very start. And now they're in the little toddler seats and they sit there for the first birthday cake, and they're still going to be using these chairs for their homework in a few years, and it makes the investment feel so much more sustainable. I mean, the child needs this thing right now, and oh gosh, I mean, they've got to eat, and maybe it's not the most sustainable thing to buy this pre-chopped watermelon, but I know that the only thing that they're going to get is watermelon, and it was one of those things for my admin brain to worry about replacing. Let's talk about the buggy. And you all ask me constantly about this in the comments, which is very understandable, as getting the right buggy was a huge part of the pre-baby panic. And after a year of field testing, I can finally give you the verdict. So we went with the Bugaboo Donkey 5 specifically because of the parent-facing option. I didn't want to put the baby bassinets one on top of the other, because then that just really panicked me, especially with preemies. I don't love that. We also went with this buggy specifically because it compacts to being a single buggy. So if you can't fit into a doorway, which you should be able to, as it's only the width of a wheelchair when it's in twin mode, you can pop one seat off, then you narrow the buggy, push that girl through, pull it out, and then you pop her sister back on. Also, when you have twins, you are already so outnumbered. So being able to see their faces, check their breathing, or just kind of share a smile while I'm pushing, it just makes me feel so much more connected and less overwhelmed. And as any parent with hearing difficulties can attest, it is harder having your children facing away from you. If I can make eye contact, then I can communicate. It worked really well when they were tiny, and it works really well now. It's not the first choice for a holiday either at all. It's so big. So we went with a Cybex travel buggy when we were in Malaysia, because we actually already had one of them from Rupert, and then we just bought exactly the same thing. And I got really good at steering buggies one-handed. Bugaboo Donkey 5, you can steer with one hand. It might hurt your hand if you're going uphill, but you can do it. And the final thing that we thought would be great, but just didn't work for us, is the Yo-Yo Connect, which seems like such a good idea. Like yo-yo buggies are supposed to fold down really small, and then the Connect one just kind of like hooks onto it. Brilliant, great idea.
Main yo-yo buggy, which is great as a buggy on its own, but with like kind of like a Connect part, which really isn't good.
And makes the original not so good.
And then when you try and go over a curb, you push on obviously the handlebars to make the top go up, but you can't do that with a Connect because you're pushing the Connect part, so all you're doing is like pushing on the other one, so it's just like it doesn't work. So I mean, how would you go over any uneven ground? You just don't. Also, our baby worked out how to pop herself out of the yo-yo. Oh, yeah, like we tried.
And she was only 10 months old.
She just undid the clip.
Something I never thought I would use. Surprisingly, for people who work on YouTube, we're quite a low-tech family, so I never thought that I would use a baby monitor that connected to my phone. The Nanit has actually been incredibly helpful. It's a baby monitor camera that then has an app, and there are lots of fancy things that you can do with this camera and the app. You get a breathing band, but we have found it most useful just for the very simple, like, I've been awake for 2 minutes. Okay, that's all right. I'll leave you another moment and see if you're going to go back to sleep, or if I actually have to go in. Or the little, I was helped back to sleep 20 minutes ago. Okay, great, now I know how long they've been asleep for. And the ability to scroll back to check who was crying 10 minutes ago when Claudia went in. With two babies, things can get a bit confusing. So it's like, is the same baby crying now, or is it the other one? And it also had bonus points for being able to take cute pictures of them interacting as well, because they wake up every morning and stand up and try and like smoosh each other's faces. The most unexpected baby item. The thing I think that I don't think you've got to get it, it's quite expensive, is the robot Hoover that I bought Claudia for Christmas. The Dreamer Hoover. Ah, how we love Dreamer. We do love her here. Twice the babies means twice the mess, especially when they start weaning. There's just bits everywhere, but it's okay because Dreamer's gonna get it. Cleans under things, cleans the corners of things. Brilliant. She mops the floor as well and doubles up as entertainment for the babies. Unexpected, as I said. Unsurprisingly, small children really enjoy watching a robot. Also, Claudia has some like real sensory issues with her feet, so she can't deal with the crumbs, and then she worries that the babies will get crumbs on their hands. Thanks, Dreamer, for all that you do. Things we bought that weren't worth it.
A bottle warmer. So when we went out for days out of Rupert, because that was important for us to leave the house, we would just take a cool bag, put ice packs in it, and take the pre-refrigerated breast milk, because they were on breast milk initially, and put that into the cool bag. And then we'd know that that would stay at the refrigerator temperature, so it was like good for like, you know, the whole 12 hours that we were out.
If it's kept cool in the cool bag, and then you take it out with you and they don't drink it, then you've got extra time. And now they're on formula, which they were for the past 6 months, and if we can just like have the bottles with the pre-scooped formula in it, carry water with you. You can have a thermos with boiling water, or go to a cafe for a hot shot.
Or what we do is we used our distilled water that we purchased, and yes, it is another expense, but it saves on so much time, because then we could just like pre-pour out the amount of water that we needed and not have to worry about boiling water and getting it all hot, because like so many times put in like the hot shot of boiling water, or ask a cafe to put in a little bit of boiling water, and if it's just like a touch too much boiling water, the whole bottle is just like too hot, and then you're like waiting
and then you're just there like, come on, cool down, as this baby's there staring at you like, give it to me. Something that I thought was going to be really great was making our own food pouches.
And I was like, well, we need a steamer and a puree maker thing.
No,
I think it's a good idea if like we were organised enough, and I feel like this is one of the things that we just didn't have.
I feel like this might be a first child thing.
Or
if you just have the one baby.
Yeah, and we looked into getting those like another gadget, which basically like, you know, boils and steams and like purees your stuff. Had the tabs open long enough on my laptop and done the research on what was best. They kind of grown out of the like puree stage.
Yeah,
and then we were like, oh well.
Just don't worry about carefully putting it into pouches. Embrace the chaos. Just throw some food on their plates. It'll be fine. I've left a link below with a few other bits that I think you'll need, including bibs, full bibs, are a must. Vanish spray for when the bib didn't stretch that far. Musical books. For us, it is the Bao Bao Learns Chinese series. It calms them down instantly, and it works for other people to use with them as well. Here, don't worry, if they get upset, start playing this musical book with them. They'll be fine. So make sure that you like the book before you give it to them. Always make sure that you would happily watch a piece of media or listen to it 10 times or 20 before you show it to your child or let them hear it, because you will have to. Other than that, when it comes to apps, I would highly recommend Cubtail, which we used religiously when the girls were little. You can really track anything on it. We tracked, at the very start, we tracked nappies, but then didn't stop doing that after a few weeks. We tracked bottles all the way up to 10 months. And obviously because they were being seen by pediatrics teams and dietitians, they have a cow's milk protein allergy. So it was much easier to be able to say, oh, they've had this much, this is how much they have daily. And the app, you know, works it all out for you and tells you whether that day they've not had as much or that day they've had more. And then you know how much to maybe give them, adjust at bedtime and make sure they have a little bit more. And you can track their height on it, you can track milestones on it. It was a really useful app for us. And you can do lots of things without having to, I mean, we had it for free. And then the other app that I have relied on is Vinted. You can get a lot of baby clothes for not much money on Vinted. And it even has a twin section. Kids Wear Collective is another really good reselling app, although theirs is mostly end of the line things rather than things that have been previously worn. So there's as often as better quality, the things you can find on Kids Wear Collective. But for second-hand clothes, you can find anything on Vinted. You really can. Looking back 1 year later, I think it's incredible really to think about how far we have come.
How much weight they put on, how much hair they have.
Being concerned about their growth and every tiny little bit of it, and one of them's in the under 1 percentile for growth and one of them's an under 5 percentile, and now they are humongous.
And they're proper thriving, yeah.
They are fully thriving, absolutely. They're very tall. They're still their adjusted age.
Yes.
Mentally and developmentally.
But their bodies are a little bit more like where they are in the actual age.
Which I think is due to the steroids that they had in utero. And I think that's also why it wasn't so awful at the start.
As the pregnant woman, I was less stressed. Maybe I was just really
Jeez, this woman. We were like, we got rushed to have this incredibly rare surgery in which our babies had a laser right next to them operating in utero, and she was so chill.
I mean, compared to a lot of other women, I think we didn't have I don't know, maybe that's what I do. I always think I've never got it that bad. I think we're very good at looking on the bright side, to be honest, both of us. But I don't know, I had this sixth sense that they were always fine.
They are very, very strong. And seeing them interact with their brother and how that's changed, and how at the very start he desperately wanted them to do something.
Interact with him.
A little bit more. And we used to be like, yes, they're playing cards with you. And instead now he gets to run around the house as the girls chase him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, they're playing with me.
Yeah.
We're playing together.
Or he plays peekaboo and they giggle.
Yeah.
Or he puts on a fashion show for them and they're like, ooh. So yeah, it's just it's basically his dream come true because he basically just wanted a tiny audience.
He did indeed. And now our biggest challenge is probably just stopping them from throwing themselves off furniture. And in some ways that's really beautiful, because they can climb up the furniture and they are determined and they have these little personalities.
Yes.
And I think we're so grateful to see that.
I mean, I think with one baby, with Rupert as well, we were we're not going to have baby gates, we're not going to have cupboard locks, because, we're just going to spend our time being no, we don't do that. And that's fine when you've got one baby. But when you've got two, I mean, we still don't have those things. But we may need to get them.
Yeah, I think it's time to baby proof. We wanted to give a really heartfelt thank you to the community, to you watching this. You have been with us through the pregnancy, through being in the hospital, through the sleepless nights and the bedroom redesigns. And thank you for being part of our family's journey.
It's been way, way better and easier than I had anticipated, because I think I was prepared for it to be really hard. I was prepared to be crying a lot. I was prepared to be absolutely exhausted. I was prepared to be feeling overwhelmed, and I have felt all of those things at some point, and I have cried definitely at some points. But actually, it's been so much. I mean, from my perspective as well. I don't know, because I can't speak for yourself, but it's actually been so much easier than I thought it would be.
Because they make everything worth it. Knowing them as people, getting to share in their laughter and their smiles and their joy. If you're scared, if you're about to have twins, if you've just had them, yes, the extended newborn phase with preemie babies is tough, but they emerge.
You can't go on anymore. You're not getting anything back from them. You just feel really, you feel like you really spent like you've had like no sleep for like weeks or months, you know, if you, or potentially a year if you've been pregnant, like, and then suddenly like they smile at you, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then they start giggling, and then they start calling you mama, and then it's just like, yeah. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is why we had twins.
We didn't really choose that.
No, okay, but this is why we had, like, you know, kids.
So thank you so much for watching and sharing in our joy this year and all of the years previously. The various things that we've mentioned in this video are going to be down in the description down below. Please, if you also have twins or you are a twin, tell us what it's like for you having twins. And we will see you in our next video very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.